It's the bag work about of apartment 5B.
You're now tuned into the Apartment 5B podcast, where we chop it up about hip-hop, R&B, sports, love and life. Hosted by Kill.
What's good? Y'all tune in Apartment 5B podcast hosted by your man Kel. I got my squad in effect with me today. I got my man Gnu. What's going on, good brother?
Peace, everybody. What's good?
What's up, bro?
All right. I got my man Vern out to ATL. What's going on, bro?
Greetings.
All right. And I got my brother, long lost brother. It's been on the episode. I got my man Jace back in effect with us. What's going on, fam?
Nothing, brother. What's going on, gentlemen?
Hey, man, everything is good. Everything is good. Y'all know me. Let's jump right into it. Yo, so last week, I'm on Twitter. One of my people sits me up like, yo, Kill, why is Fat Joe in Big Pun's name never mentioned when it comes to top 5 or top 10? You know, and, I'm going back and forth with dude trying to explain it to him. And then somebody else who follows me jumped in and was like, yo, I'm going to keep it real with you. I think it's because they Latino. You know what I mean? I was like, bro, I don't think so. To me, Latino has absolutely nothing to do with why Fat Joe, especially Joe. Like, I know people who I don't know if Joe even is in my top 30. But definitely Pun, to me, has nothing to do with, not being in the top 10 because he's Latino or nothing like that. So, It brought into race to it because, of course, dude was Latino and he was like, look, I don't play the race card like that. I truly believe in it. And I'm like, yo, look, bro, it's not for me to say you're wrong. I'm just saying, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. I just don't think that's it, but it had me thinking about race and hip hop. It had me thinking about some things Lord Jamal has said on Vlad TV and just how we look at, people who are not black, not just white, but anybody outside of our race, how we look at hip hop. We did a show a minute ago about Blue Eyed Soul, similar like that. So just wanted to do the same thing for hip hop. So first, let me ask this before we even go into the whole thing. Do you believe that Big Pun and Fat Joe are not mentioned in people's top 5 or top 10 because they're Latino? Why or why not? Jace, you back in effect with us for the first time in a minute. What you think, good brother?
I don't think that's the case, man. I've heard people argue Pun, especially in their top 5. I don't have him in my top 5, but I definitely think he's an upper echelon lyricist. I don't think race is an issue for me. There are just other people that I could see over top of him. That's it.
All right, so race don't got nothing to do with it. Nothing Latino, nothing like that. All right, no doubt. What about you, Vern?
Absolutely not, man. And I think I responded on the Twitter thing that you were talking about. I'll just put it to you this way. I've heard a coach say this. If you're going to take player X off the top 10 or top 50 list, if you're going to put him on the top 10 or top 20 list, who are you going to take off? It has nothing to do with race, man. And to be honest, whenever, I've seen hundreds of debates about the top Mount Rushmore and things of that nature, and those names are never mentioned.
Right. All right, so you're saying race does not play a part?
No, sir, no.
All right, no doubt. And what about you, Gnu?
As far as hip hop goes, man, Latinos has always been like right there with us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like neck and neck as far as early hip hop, breakdancing and rhyming and shit like that. So. I don't think. For some it could be. It could be a reason why, but I wouldn't say that. Like you said, I wouldn't put Joe probably in my top 30 or 20 maybe. But you know what I'm saying. But I don't think it's because they Puerto Rican or nothing like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I totally agree with y'all. Like I said in the beginning, I think with Pun, I thought Pun was nice. I'll be real with you. He was never one of my favorites. You know what I'm saying? But I knew Pun was nice. I actually thought Pun kind of canceled out Joe, because at first it was like Joe was the, you know, main Latino MC who was out there or whatever like that. And then when Pun came, it just, if you thought Joe was nice, it's like Pun just almost made you forget about Joe. You know what I mean? So it's almost like they canceled each other out. You know what I mean? So I always felt like Pun may have eventually, not for me personally, but I think would be mentioned more 10 or things like that if he had a longer lifespan. You know, he had Capital Punishment, which was a solid album, but that second joint, Yeah Baby, was a huge letdown. Like, that may have been one of the most disappointing hip-hop albums ever. You know what I mean? So I definitely think, oh, you liked the GNU?
Yeah, baby. I thought that shit was tight.
Oh, yeah. See,
Baby.
I didn't rock with it, and y'all know me beat wise first. You know, I actually, it's funny, I thought this was one of those albums that they put together after he died. You know what I'm saying? And then I found out, like, nah, that he was still alive with this album or whatever like that. But I just think that maybe he would have been mentioned more if his career lasted a lot longer. But I think, Vern, I agree with you. To make my top 10, I just don't see Pun knocking off any of the people who are in my top 10, whether he's black, white, Puerto Rican, whatever. He could be whatever. He's not, I just don't see him knocking any of those people off like that. Ed, what's going on, fam? What about you? Do you think that Fat Joe and Big Pun are not mentioned in most people's top 10 because they're Latino?
I don't think it has anything to do with race at all, to be honest. And I think they get the respect they deserve in hip hop. I think that they're well accepted in the hip hop community, to the point that I was thinking earlier, like, Fat Joe gets so many passes, man. Like, how many other non-black folk get to use the N-word freely as Fat Joe does? I mean, he's a representative for hip hop, very well respected, and but I don't think he's a top 10 MC. Now, there's more of an argument for Big Pun because of his skill set, and you know, that first album was a borderline classic. Some people call it a classic, some people don't, but all it was that one album. If Yeah Baby was that level as Capital Punishment, I think it'll be a whole nother story. I think he'll be in the conversation. I don't know if he makes top 10, but I think he'll be in more conversations.
All right, no doubt, no doubt. And it's funny that you said that about Joe, because it was funny. People were saying, like, yeah, Joe, you know, Jealous One's Envy is probably a classic. And I'm like, yo, I don't have Fat Joe having any classic albums. I don't have Fat Joe having any, the way I define classic songs. Like, yo, I love Flow Joe. That shit was dope. I don't know if I'm gonna call it a hip hop classic. I don't know if I'm gonna call, I love The Shit Is Real, the Primo remix. I love the remix, the Success. Fat Joe has bangers for me. Fat Joe don't have no classics. Like, Lean Back to me, again, is not a classic to me. Like, if you throw it on, I'm gonna say the rhymes or whatever. That was a banger. But for me, Fat Joe has no classics. Fat Joe did get better. I mean, Flow Joe, that first album was basically like 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
He stepped his game up. That nigga is on his Victor Oladipo, like most stepped up player or whatever that award is, you know, most important MC. He got better, but like, just not gonna happen. But again, because of that, and my man throwing the race card on the table, throwing the big joker out there, like I said, it got me thinking about race. Now, I hate to misquote stuff, but my day was hectic. I didn't have time to go back and find out the exact quote, but I know Lord Jamal said something to the extent on Vlad TV, that something to the extent of hip hop being, if you looked at it like a house, like it's black people's house, and that white people or anybody else are just renting a room. To that extent. Again, if I'm misquoting it, I apologize, but that's really like the moral of what was said. And I want to talk about that and how we look at race and hip hop and things like that. I know for me personally, I disagree with that statement wholeheartedly, for the simple fact that GNU, like you said, there were a lot of Latinos who were right there with blacks in the Bronx when hip hop started. and there were a lot of white people. I'm not saying there were more white people, more Latinos than blacks, but there, especially in Graff, there was definitely a lot of white people. Now, I know a lot of people who are not well versed in Graff, or maybe are not from New York, or not from the tri-state, or whatever like that, or old enough to remember that. But yo, go watch Wild Style, or go watch Style Wars. You'll see white people that were graffiti writers. So, you know, I never understood this whole thing about it's ours, you know, and you know, we'll kind of throw it back to you from time to time, or things like that. Let me take a time out. My brother Ev just joined in. What's going on, good brother?
Peace, y'all. My bad. I'm on the left coast, man, and it's like dinner time, so I had to get some things situated real fast.
Oh, no doubt, man. No doubt. Before we jump into this, let me ask you, I kind of talked about earlier, how do you feel about Fat Joe and Big Pun not being in people's top 10 because they're Latino? What do you think about that?
I don't necessarily say that that's true. I think I've heard people mention Big Pun enough times. Maybe not Fat Joe, but I've heard Big Pun's name pop up here and there as far as being people's top 10. Me personally, they're not in my top 10 just because they're not my top 10 MCs for various different reasons. But I've definitely heard people, like for some people, I've heard Big Pun being in their top 5. Okay. So you don't think race has anything to do with it? Well, I mean, see, when we use the word race, though, I think it gets a little tricky because we're all, you know, all these cats are people of color. So to me, when I mean, from my training, race is, you know, it's not necessarily defined that way. But I won't get too deep into that realm. But I'll say I don't think colorism has anything to do with whether they're in people's top 10 or not. I don't think it's a colorism thing. I think it's just like an MC thing.
All right, no doubt. All right, so let me ask y'all this: do y'all see race when you see MC? And what I mean by that is, like, when I was coming up, and I love Beastie Boys' License to Ill. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. True. I never saw them. I was probably in 6th grade, because this is 86, so I'm in 6th grade. I never looked at them and said with my people, like, oh, yo, those are dope white MCs. You know, it was just like, yo, those are the Beastie Boys. Like, it didn't even enter my mind, like, oh, these are white MCs and they're not as good as Run DMC, or they're not as good as the Blacks or whatever. They were just MCs. You know what I mean? When Russell signed Third Base, I just remember knowing that, okay, Beasties left Def Jam, so I thought it was just like, okay, Russell's trying to replace his last white group. But I didn't look at Third Base like white MCs. Again, I heard Step Into the AM, I was like, yo, that shit is dope. I heard Brooklyn Queens, I was like, yo, that shit is dope. Like, it didn't really, and maybe it was because the white MCs at that time were making dope music. Maybe if they were making whack music, then I'd be like, oh, look at these white people coming in here fucking up the game. But because they were making dope music, I really didn't see race. You know, same thing with R&B. I always hated that soul thing, because I never looked at Tina Marie as she's a great white singer, or Hall & Oates is a great white band. It's just like, yo, they dope. You know, it's that simple. Even with Ball, I will say, probably in my younger years, I used to be like, oh, Larry Bird, he white, or John Stockton, he white. But as I grew up and as I matured, John Stockton eventually became one of my, I won't say favorite, but I started to like John Stockton's game. You know what I mean? And as I got older, there's nobody who can front on Larry Bird game. If you front on Larry Bird game, then you just racist. You know what I mean? And one of my favorite ball players is Jason Williams, White Chocolate. You know what I mean? And again, I'm not looking at him like, oh, he nice for a white dude. No, Jay Williams was nice, period. You know what I mean? So do you guys look at race when you see hip hop? Like, Ev, I know you may have to dip out, so I'll start with you. What about you, bro? Did you see the Beastie Boys as they white MCs? Are they okay for a white group, or, you know, like
the exact opposite? The Beastie Boys actually was the first album that I purchased with my own money, and it was on cassette. I'll actually take it a step further. I'm giving them some information here, but me and a close friend of mine for Halloween, we were the Beastie Boys.
Who are you?
Y'all pull that off.
Yeah, I know.
No, hold on,
Who are you?
So if you put on white
I
face,
think I might have been MC.
Right.
I think I was.
put on white face, like how did you pull this off?
We just, you know, what we did, man. We were the kids on the cheese bus that would just be in the back of the bus, just rhyming everybody else's rhymes, whether it's Big Daddy Kane, Beastie Boys, Run DMC, whatever it was. And I think we just took like some like trucker hats, and I might have took some like duct tape and put Beastie Boys on and flipped it up, because I know they always had their hats flipped up. So it was just like little shit like that, and just, you know, the whole day we just said every Beastie Boys verse off that License to Ill album. So, but for me also, to answer your question, no, not at all. I was a fan of Everlast when he came out with Syndicate Posse and Ice-T. And a lot of people realize that Everlast didn't House of Pain, he came out with Ice-T. So I was a fan of that cat back then because he was dope. When Third Base came around, that shit still was dope. I thought Pete Nice was dope. I still think Pete Nice. I mean, to me, they still was some of them MCs. I'm like, yo, them cats are spitting. So, you know what I mean? So for me, that was never the case. It was, and then if you look at it historically, you know, you have white dudes who were graph writers. So, you know what I mean? It's like, it's in hip hop. Hip hop was to me, it was a culture about cats that just really didn't have it, and we wasn't the only ones that didn't have it.
Right.
You know, in the Bronx, it was you had white families who didn't have it, so they were a part of that culture as well. In my from what I've known from talking to cats who were graph writers in New York back in the 80s and in the 70s.
All right.
So for me, that was never a thing. When M came out, I wasn't crazy about M because he was.
We gonna get to.
I'm sorry, I'm going all deep. My bad. Yeah. So no, answer the question. No.
All right. What about you, Gnu? Did you see Race? Because you my age and probably a little older. Did you see Race when the Beastie Boys was out and everything? Because we were young.
Yeah. I was early teens. But yeah, when the Beastie Boys came out, I looked at them as some crazy ass white boys, but I fuck with them because I was like, yo, these is white dudes that they cool with Run DMC. Like, you know what I'm saying? They was like the white Run DMC for me. So I fuck with the Beastie Boys. I looked at them as white boys, but then like Third Base, their whole vibe was like they was on some smooth, I looked at them as like brothers, like they was niggas, you know what I'm saying? Like they just had a different kind of swag. They weren't as like wild and zany as the Beastie Boys were. They were kind of laid back and more lyrical and shit. So I didn't really look at them as white boys, you know what I mean? But
all right. Yeah. No doubt. What about you, Ed?
Yeah, for me, I'll echo what Ev and Gnu said. As far as the Beastie Boys, I thought they were hip hop. Definitely reminded me of Run DMC as well, with the whole rock influence. I definitely saw more rock with the Beastie Boys. So when some of the other groups came out, like Third Base, they were more hip hop, like hip hop as we know it. But Run DMC did all that before the Beastie Boys. I think Beastie Boys just kind of took that to another level. But definitely hip hop for sure.
All right, no doubt. And just for people who don't really understand the Beastie Boys, they was touring with Run DMC. You know what I mean? Like they was, of course, on Def Jam, but some people may only know. And again, because younger people watch this, they may be thinking, Beastie Boys, Check Your Head. Like, no, we talking License to Ill. Not Paul's Boutique. We talking this joint right here. The plane crashed down.
Yeah.
I mean, because there are different levels of Beastie Boys. Somebody who likes to Check Your Head Beastie Boys may not know about Paul Revere and Time to Get Ill and Holding Down Hitting, Brass Monkey, and joints like that or whatever like that. What about you, Jace?
They were dope to me. Am I gonna sit here and say that I didn't recognize that they were white? Absolutely did, but that didn't take away from the dopeness of their art.
Right.
Bottom line, they were still acceptable in my opinion. You can't knock the energy, man. The vibe, the art. You can't take away truth, and their truth spoke out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What about you?
I mean, growing up, I'm thankful that my parents exposed me. I mean, my pops was rocking Ball Skaggs and Steely Dan and Player and all that stuff. If you dope, you dope as far as I'm concerned, man. Because if you flip this coin, how many whack black hip hop artists came out there? So I mean, and Beastie Boys was like 9th grade, just moved to Atlanta, College Park. Man, we wore out that License to Ill album. It was dope. They were some zany frat boys, but they could kick it with brothers. And so I ain't have no. I saw like Jay said. I recognized the fact that they were white guys, but they were dope. And that's if you dope, I don't care what color you are.
All right. So tell me this, and I want to send this out quick. Joint another part for my man with the No Half Stepping book, all about Latin Quarters. One of the things he talks about in here is how MC Search be out at the Latin Quarters. You know, so it's not like Search was just this white dude who just jumped into our culture. And I think that's where a lot of things that started to happen maybe post 96, 97-ish, you know, it may have seemed like, not saying it wasn't, but just letting you all know that Search was in these hip hop battles, you know what I mean? And when we talk about M, same thing. M was at the Lyricist Lounge. M was running with the Outsiders up in Jersey, you know? So M was paying his dues, you know, like there's a difference. If you don't pay your dues, I may have an issue with you. But if you paid your dues and you've made your rounds and you've done your battles and you've done your due diligence as far as being an MC, then again, I don't care if you black or white. Now, one thing that everybody said was they didn't mind it because they were dope. Do you think, and again, this is just, we know they was dope, but do you think if they were whack, then it would have been like, oh, why these white people fucking up our culture? What you think, Al?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on whack, because Vanilla Ice was whack, right?
Totally.
But Vanilla Ice was also almost like a caricature in a sense. Like he was like they were trying to make him a thing.
Right.
But I think if you butt. I don't think it's necessarily, and I hope I'm answering your question correctly. I think if you know, if you were whack, you were whack. You know, I think just with M, it's like I said with M, there's some stuff that when he first came out, I wasn't a crazy M fan. I thought he was, you know, he had spit game, but he was too silly for me. He said too much silly shit, so I wasn't a huge fan like that. But I think that if they weren't good, you know, like what's that I'm trying to think of a group that actually didn't really make it. What was them cats, and they were calling themselves the Black Teenagers or something like that.
Young Black Teenagers.
Yeah, man.
They weren't good to me, so I didn't check for them. You know what I mean? But I don't think to answer your question, if you were whack and they was white, I don't think you got a pass because you was white. You know what I'm saying? And I don't necessarily like, you know, I don't think, you know, if you wasn't good. Because during that time too, it was about skill. And I guess just to add to the question, when I came into it, when I really got involved on my own, Beastie Boys are already there, so it wasn't a thing to have another white MC come out of the blue here and there. But to me, it's like, yo, if you're good, you're good. If you're not good, you're not good. And I think that's pretty much, you know, what it is. Hopefully I'm answering your question. I'm not sure.
No, you did. And good point with the Young Black Teenagers who were signed to Hank Shocklee's label through Def Jam. So, because I remember when it came out, I'm like, white dudes with the name Young Black Teenagers.
Yeah. Did somebody have dreads or something?
Yeah, it was from Juice. It was Radames from Juice. He was like the main MC. The dude
that was Rada. Yo, you just fucked me up with that one,
yeah. He was like the lead rapper or whatever in that joint, in the Young Black Teenagers. Yeah. So that was Radames from Juice.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So what about you? Do you think if they would have been whack, that third base of the Beasties would have been whack, you'd be looking like, man, y'all fucking shit up over here. Like, go back to doing whatever.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. So ask what was the question again?
Nah, like how we all said we didn't have a problem with them because they were dope. Do you think you would have had a problem with them if they were whack? Would you have been like, yo, look at these dudes, like, yo, get out of our culture because you ain't repping it right?
Yeah, it was like everybody said, man. Whack is whack, no matter what color, man. You know what I mean? But I would have added that on to it too. Like, yeah, get these white motherfuckers out of here and fucking up the culture. You know what I mean? But, yeah. Whack is whack, though.
No doubt. What about you, Ed?
Well, I think for me, when I first heard the Beastie Boys, like I remember the video for "Fight for Your Right to Party." That was my first exposure, and I just think if they weren't dope, I just wouldn't have really paid attention to them. But another point is, at that era, it was about paying dues, like you said, and also, you know, people were giving cosigns. So if it was about, you know, let's say Def Jam, Russell Simmons and Run DMC giving the Beastie Boys a cosign, if Beastie Boys are whack, it makes them look bad. So if they're putting the Beastie Boys on, they're going to make sure that, all right, these guys are dope, because we ain't going to put our name to it if they're whack.
Right. All right. What about you, Jace?
What I would not have had I'll tell you what I would have a problem with. I would have a problem with the machine pushing whackness down our throat.
Yeah.
And people who are not of the culture accepting it and thinking that it is of the culture. Mm-hmm. If it's whack, it's whack, right? But if it's being pushed in your face every hour on the hour, 6-7 days a week, and some people become numb to the fact that it is whack and they accept it and it's dope because it's just in their face, I got a problem with that. That I have a problem with sheeple.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a show right there. That's a show. You can do a show on that. Like for real, like when did that time period, I'm curious to know when that time period started, where they started really like force feeding whack hip hop down your throat.
Payola.
You know. Yeah. But
right.
I digress.
All right. What about you, Vaughn?
Yeah, I'm echoing what everybody says. I mean, great point on the fact that you followed on the heels of Def Jam, which to all of us at that time, I mean, you're not on Def Jam in my eyes back then if you weren't dope, you know, because that's just what Def Jam was all about. So you came in with a cosign and then you delivered. I mean, I'm good with it.
Right. And I think for me, same thing like everybody said, if it's whack, it's whack. But I think the other thing too is at the time when the Beasties and Search and them came out, that hip hop was still in this kind of infancy industry thing. What I mean by that is that there wasn't a lot of money in it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now you have people who are just like, oh, I just want to rap because I can make money. Like, it's now an option. Like when I brought my 2 turntables and the mic when I was 10, there wasn't no, I wasn't talking to my mom like, hey mom, this is an investment. I can do X amount of parties. I can make the money back. It was just like, I love doing it. So I feel like anybody, white, black, Puerto Rican, any color you were, Japanese, whatever, if you were out at that time, like Ev said, it was about skills. Like you would have had to been dope, you know, no matter what color you were, to come out.
Hey, Kill, what about white producers? Have we looked at them the same way? We look at them the same way?
You know what? Here's the
Great point.
If you bring up white producers, my favorite producer, y'all know, the last 20 years or since 2000 is Alchemist. You know what I'm saying? Another one of my favorite white producers is Jake One. Another white producer who had a banana project out, I think it was called, I forgot the name of it, his last joint, Marco Polo. You know what I'm saying?
What about from the 80s, like that same time period, the 80s?
I mean, we talking Rick Rubin. We're talking one of the best who did it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and again, I never look at Alchemist like, yo, he dope for a white boy. I'm like, nah, he's the dopest producer in my eyes from. And again, it's one of those things I think as being a producer, I'm able to see and either understand the tricks or not understand the tricks that makes him so dope to me. Now, the casual listener may just listen to an Alchemist track and be like, oh, that ain't shit, but not knowing how to put it together. So again, even with me with producers, I never looked at Rick Rubin like, yo, why Russell partner with this white dude? You know, and again, maybe it's me being oblivious to it. I just never thought that in my mind, like, why is Russell, this black man, partnering with this white man for making an album? I mean, making a label, Def Jam, and why is he letting the white man make all the beats? Because it was dope. You know, anything that Rick did at that time was crazy. You know, but I don't know, Jace, what did you think about white producers? Does that sway you any?
No.
All right, cool.
I think Jason has a point to what he earlier said too, though, as far as like, I feel like when it became more of a money maker, then you started to see the white and the black and everything else, because you got it got spoon fed to you in such a real ignorant kind of way. And you know, you were and then at all of a sudden you're getting all these, you know, white rappers out of the blue who were just like subpar, but everybody wanted to repeat and want to do like an Eminem repeat kind of thing.
Right.
And I think that's when it really got crazy, because by that time you separated from the culture of the music itself, and it's more about like the actual like the pop element of it.
And that's a good point, because I remember, of course, after M Blow, and I remember everybody was searching for a white MC. You know, I don't know if y'all remember Timbaland had Bubba Sparks. You know, every producer was like, okay, now I need a white MC. Like Dre did that with him, so let me. And everybody kind of ran to get one to do that. But again, I think, like you said, the problem with that is that now it's coming to a point of it just being like, we're just looking for anybody white. You know what I'm saying? Just to, you know, kind of almost like how Puff did. I know this isn't white or black, but like how Puff did with Shine. Like it was like he's only signing Shine because he sounded like Big, you know. And to this day, I never really did think he sounded like Big like that.
Nope.
But you know,
that's a matter of the gimmick being fed rather than the art.
Right. You're right on that. Now tell me this: with M, Ev, you were going to touch on it. I know a lot of people, and I'm one of them, who says M would not be as big as he is if he was black. You know what I mean? I think Vegas said last week, Royce is just the black version of Eminem when he's spitting. Not as far as, like you said, Ev, with all the crazy zaniness stuff, but you know, when M wants to just spit, it's almost like he's just the white version of Royce. But of course, Royce is nowhere as big. Now, like I said, I believe that, but then I started thinking today, was it the Dr. Dre cosign that blew him up? I'm not saying the whiteness didn't have anything to do with it, but I'm looking at what M and Dre did for 50. You know, 50 was just a mixtape, you know, a New York City mixtape MC. He gets the cosign from Dre and M, and now he's selling 10, 12, 20 million records with, you know, what was the name of his first album? Get Rich or Die Trying. Right. So, do you guys believe that if M was black, would Eminem be as big as he was if he still had the Dre cosign? I mean, keep in mind, Dre cosign, DOC. You know, Dre's always been the one who's going to show you this is the MC who's next. Do y'all think M would have been as big if he wasn't white? What you think, Vern?
I'll answer it this way. M is dope. His whiteness did not hurt him for damn sure. And think about it in these terms. Who buys most of hip hop?
White folk.
Right. So that definitely did not hurt him. But at the same time, M could spit. I mean, that dude is talented. And, you know, to answer your question, if he were black, I don't think he would be as big. But that does not take away from the fact that I think he can spit when he's focused, and the whiteness helped him.
All right. What about you, Jace?
Do you gentlemen, I'll pose this to you gentlemen, do you think with his lyrical ability, his content, his subject matter, in that time frame that he began to blow, do you think the average person of color would consume his content at that time?
Who are you asking? Because I'm ready.
I'm asking the panel. I'm turning this around on the panel.
No.
We live in America.
So a person of color with his skills, his acumen, his content, his ability, but the only difference is his skin color. Would the average black consumer, or would the average consumer of hip hop consume his music in that time frame?
Well, what time frame are you talking about? When he first came out?
Yes. If all you switch is his skin color, are we buying?
Like I said,
what year was the first?
This was like 97,
97-ish. Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, when M came out, it took 8 Mile for me to become a fan of M, because it was on that particular soundtrack that I really heard his lyrical ability. I didn't hear it on his albums like that, and I didn't, I gave it a little bit of play here and there, but he was too much of a he was too silly for me. Yeah. And so I couldn't get into it like that. And I feel like, I don't know if this is still true, but there was a time period where country music is the most sold music in the nation. I don't know if that's still true today. So I think because M was white, and because I don't know if anybody here has ever driven across country, it's white, man. The whole is white. Yes. That's white as hell. It's just white. So I think because M was white, he tapped into a whole market that hip hop have never really seen before. Mm-hmm. And that he wouldn't have did if he wasn't white. And if he was black and he came out the way he did, no, he wouldn't have had. It would have took him. I don't know if he would have had enough of a time span to get to that 8 Mile soundtrack. Because to me, I don't know about everybody else, but that was when I really heard him as an MC, and I was like, oh, okay, this cat can actually spit. Oh, okay, I see what he's doing now. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he would have lasted as long if he was a brother. I'm with you because I really didn't like all that cartoon character stuff. So yeah, 8 Mile stripped all that stuff away and just said, "Here's an MC." So I'm with you on that, Ev.
All right. What about you, Gnu? From what Jace was asking.
Nah, I don't think Eminem would have blew the same if he was a brother. For the point that I think Ev made a good point because Eminem, he reached so many markets that a black artist wouldn't. You know what I mean? Because like you said, a lot of America is white, and they love Eminem. They worship him, man. So yeah, I don't think he would have had Dre's push. He would have did good, but with the Dre co-sign, but nah.
All right. What about you, Ed?
Well, I think that Eminem's story, like his angle, his story, what made him unique was uniquely a white thing. So we don't get the same perspective without Eminem being white. And he was representing Detroit. How many other MCs from Detroit were there? So, I mean, if he just has the same background, grew up just like every other MC, and he's not white from a trailer park, where's the differentiation of that? So I think that's that. And obviously I do agree, him being white, that brought all the white fans in, they could relate to that. So I definitely don't think he has that level of success without that.
And it's funny because I'm just like Vernon F. I wasn't feeling the whole "Hi, my name is," it was kind of silly to me. And I think one of the first times somebody schooled me to M was off the Sound Bombing 2 soundtrack. Mm-hmm. And he had this joint, I forgot the name of it, but it was like the first joint on there, the Beat Man. What happened?
Any Man?
Yeah, Any Man, yep. And the Beat Miners did the beat. And M just like slaughtered it. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, okay, like that's not the same "Hi, my name is" dude. You know what I mean? And like F said then too, when what's the name of that movie? I know y'all just said it.
8 Mile.
8 Mile. When 8 Mile came out, it kind of was like, yo, like this dude is really like, I think Ever somebody said it earlier about hip hop is about the struggle, and it was like, Ev, like you said, this country's hella white, but when you get to them trailer parks, that's the same thing as the projects for us. You know what I mean? So somebody coming from a trailer park, on the wrong side of the tracks, so it's kind of like, the same thing. So after seeing 8 Mile and hearing more about his story and people schooling me, like how I said, him being with the Outsiders and on the Lyricist Lounge, because it was kind of throwing me. I'm like, why is this dude on Sound Bombing? Like, this is raucous shit. Like, why is it, like, why is he on the Lyricist Lounge? And like, yo, he did his thing. Like he did what he had to do, similar how Kobe, he's from Upper Marion, if outside of Philly. Let's get that straight. Not from Philly. He's from outside Philly. But Kobe would want to come down to North Philly and play ball at Temple. He would want to come out into the hood to test his skills to see how good he was. And I'm just saying the same thing for him, that if he's doing his battle rounds and all of that, I don't know if Vanilla Ice did any battle rounds. I don't know if these other white MCs, tested their skills in a cypher or things like that. And at the end of the day, he's skilled. So even though he's not one of my favorite MCs, M is not in my top 10. I know lots of people, black and white, who he is, but I would never sit here same way. I hate Kobe, but I would never front on his skill set. M is easily one of the dopest MCs. But again, it's like Vern said, I don't know who M would edge out of my top 10 for him to fit in there. So with the Lord Jamal saying of hip hop is the blacks' house, and you know, white folk, anybody else is just renting a room. Do you agree with that statement or not? And if you do, why? If you don't agree with it, why not? Ev, what about you, good brother?
Ooh, man, I think I need to think on that a little bit first. He
All
said,
right.
hip hop is the black man's house, and the white people are renting a room.
All other races too, right? Is what he said, kid.
I think he was directing it towards something. It was about
That
about
dude.
Eminem.
No, I think it was the other guy. What's the new young white boy that's out there?
Oh,
You know what? I haven't kept up with none of these new white rappers. So
not Macklemore. It's one.
What's his name? Machine Gun Kelly or something. What's the guy's name?
No, it's another.
no, but he had like fake guns in the video and all that, right?
Okay. I think
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of his name though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm catching the brain freeze on it, but you know, that's what Jamal was saying, was that, you know, it's our house, and
Yeah.
you know, and again, I'll come back to you, Ev, because I want to give you a second to think of it. Like I said earlier, I totally disagree with that for the simple fact that I felt like all races made hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I don't know, because I wasn't old enough back then, and I'm from Philly. I don't know how many Latinos and white people were in the Bronx at these parties. You know what I mean?
You talking about Latinos was written in space too?
Well, he just said specifically white.
Okay.
That's specifically white. But for me, you know, I disagree with that, because for the simple fact that I think if it goes back to what a lot of people were saying. To me, if you're dope, you're dope. You know, and I think Anu said it, that even if you were black, I was like, get your ass out of here.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? So it literally adding another word of get your white ass out of here, because you're whack. You know what I mean? I was like, get out of here. And I heard he from Oakland. I heard he the real deal in the streets. But it didn't matter if you was street related or not. I thought you was whack. You know? So for me, it's just like, I felt like, you know, maybe blacks were the majority, but Latinos and white people and whoever else was there to help build these bridges of hip hop, I feel like I can't sit back and claim it as just our own. But again, that's just my opinion.
I mean, and I'm trying to get an understanding of where he's coming from. I mean, I'm not Lord Jamal, so I don't know his thought pattern. So I'm trying to get an understanding as far as where he's coming from with that perspective. But I think to say that is to really, like, you know, you had Rick Rubin, who did a lot. You had Paul C. You had a lot of cats in the earlier times who also paved the way. And you had, like I said, you had white graph writers to this day who are legendary.
So like we were saying earlier, Ev, maybe to the point that when hip hop was birthed, it was more of an us against them, the disenfranchised people of color, people of lower social economic status, no matter your race. But it was more of an us against them mentality, and the white man, the business owner, the man with the money pushing the machine, maybe us against them. You're renting the space in our art form from the business aspect as opposed to the art. Maybe he may have been trying to say it something different.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is something to be said about how, you know, like Jizza said, I'm out and climbing, who plays an electric guitar. We don't know the meaning of dope when it's looking for a suit. Like, I think it's something to be said about how, you know, and this is across the board in America, how that, you know, that same white oppression comes into a culture and walks in to dominate and to control it and to establish that power, you know, which is racism at its core. I think there's something to be said about that, about, you know, and, you know, while we allow that to happen, or you know, it all comes down to money. At the end of the day, people trying to feed their family, trying to make it out the hood or whatever like that. So it's something to be said about that. But I think down to its core, if we're talking about the culture itself, I can't necessarily agree with what Lord Jamal is saying. I do think it from the late 80s, early 90s, it became a problem, because then at that point in time, we weren't in control of the culture anymore. Like, it was being dictated to us, as opposed to us saying what it is or what it's not.
Right. All right, no doubt. What you think about that, Vern?
I'll just say it from this perspective. No, I don't agree necessarily with that blanket statement that he made. If you come out of respect, I'm cool with you. It's the same. If you think about the British invasion, like in the 80s, you had all these dope white soul singers that came over here and was killing it. because they respected the Motown era and Philly soul era even more than we did. Because if you think about it, Amy Winehouse respects soul and R&B more than our so-called soul and R&B singers. So I got to give her props. So if you come from a place of love and respect, I'm rocking with you. I can feel it. It's genuine. But if you come from a moneymaker's perspective or a vulture, I see that too, and I'm gonna dish you.
Now, here's the thing. That's a good point to bring up, because how would you yourself see, like when you said you can see that? How do you see that? How do you see that? And I don't know if you could give an example, because I've been in these countless arguments. You know, when I made that statement about Christina, Justin, and Robin Thicke making better soul music than a lot of black people were at that time. And keep in mind, I can't remember this year or whatever it was, but people were just like, oh, Kill, this is them. Just like they stole rock and roll, they stole jazz, they stole everything. You know, you get in the right conversation with the right black person. First, I get it, you know. But like you said, where do you see it? Like you said, it's coming from a place of love and respect versus it's just a money-making grab. And could you give an example? Like Christina Aguilera, do you see her coming from a money-making perspective or from just a cultural, you know, because look at it like this. Britney, Christina, and Justin all came from that Mickey Mouse. Right? Now, somebody would say no to Christina because Christina called up Premier like, yo, I want to work with you. Now, Premier ain't about making no money. Premier is not going to give you no massive hit that's going to send you off into the stratosphere, you know, or anything like that. So for me, I'd be like, oh, well, it seems like at least for that album, Christina wanted to, like, she respected the culture enough to be like, and Primo even said, he asked her like, yo, why you want to rock with me? And she was like, yo, that Living Proof album you did for Group Home. And Primo was like, that was the answer that she gave him and made him say, I'll work with you. Like, damn, you know, if you know about Group Home, then I'm willing to work with you. You know, now outside of reading that story and keeping my ear to the street, I'm from the outside looking in, I'm gonna be like, oh, here come Christina. Now she tired of that pop shit. You see, so I'm just wondering, how do you yourself, how are you able to see who respects it and who doesn't?
You know, I've never tried to put that in, paint the picture like the question that you're asking me, because and Christina Aguilera is kind of not a good person to ask me about, because you know that's just not one of my people. First of all, to me, it's got to be good, you know, just musically, and then I'll dig deeper than that, because you know one of the subjects du jour right now, you might get into it later, is Bruno. You know,
here's the thing. Pause on that for a second. What the fuck is Bruno? What is he? Is he black?
I think he's Hawaiian. I think he's from Hawaii for real.
Okay, so what does that fall in as far as, you know, when Armageddon is coming and all the white people going that way and the black people go, where's Bruno going? I mean, I'm asking because I'm hearing all this culture vulture stuff about Bruno, and I'm like, I'm kind of like with Ev. Like, if you're not white, then I feel like you're a minority, and then you're down with us. So if you telling me he, you know, Hawaiian, I'm like, well, I mean, is he able to, you know, what is Bruno? Like,
I don't know.
Anybody know what Bruno is?
Yeah,
I thought he was Spanish or some sort.
No, he's like half Filipino, half Filipino, like a quarter Puerto Rican or something like that.
So at the end of the day, when it's the white only golf club course,
he ain't getting in.
He's not.
He ain't getting in. No.
Which made me question. I didn't even understand where all this culture vulture shit came from with him because of that. Because he's not white.
And Kill.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your point.
No, you're good. No, so I'm gonna use an example. We have a neighborhood. We run it down for whatever reasons, and then somebody else comes in and take what we ran down and builds it up. You can call that gentrification, and in some points it is. What I'm saying is, I think Bruno respects the craft, and he's gotten co-signed by the Stevie Wonders and people like Uncle Charlie Wilson and them. And so people are mad talking about he just stealing something from the 80s or whatever. Well, y'all ain't doing it. Y'all doing whatever it is. Y'all trying to do trap R&B. and he going back to classic soul and stuff. So I'm cool with it. I don't think I answered your question.
Yo,
go ahead.
This is a little complicated because we're having these conversations. If we were talking about, let's say, like Rolling Stones, right? Rolling Stones went to Chicago and got a lot of that shit from Muddy Waters. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And Led Zeppelin got it from the other the other brother from down here. And we can look back on that now and be like, yo, you know, that's some, you know, they coming in and snatching what we're doing. And I think that's very real and it's ongoing. So I think, you know, I can say, like, in the 80s, I didn't have a good understanding of racism or colorism. I didn't really get that to like mid 90s. So my perspectives during that time is going to be different than my perspectives when I start like looking at things for what they are. So I say all that to say, like, when we talk about Christina Aguilera and Justin Timberlake, you know, is it something, is it a thing of like, hey, we just really like this sound, we want this sound? Or is it a thing like the same as always, like, you know, Black culture is the culture that we make money off of. That's Black culture is American culture at the end of the day, but it always gets being represented by a white face. Because now people are looking at Justin Timberlake sideways because of his last album. So he's, you know, but I mean that's a different story. But I just raised that question, like, are we looking at it from a historical lens and going all the way through, even through like from our like most precious times in hip hop? Is it the same thing from the 70s, same thing from the 60s, same thing from the 50s? Are we giving it a pass because it's music that we enjoy and appreciate and we see it in a different light? Not to say saying I don't know which side of the fence I'm on. I'm just really raising the question.
I mean, I think for me, even with the last Justin album, like, I'm confused. I'm confused with race. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like you have certain people who get the pass. I don't know if the Beatles stole rock and roll from what I, and I'm not a big Beatles historian, so I'm just going off what people have told me and people who know more than I do.
White people stole rock and roll from Chuck Berry. That's just, you know.
What happened?
I said Chuck Berry started rock and roll, so anything after that is taking it.
Well, what I mean by that is because in the same question I asked Vern, we have the thin line between taken and be influenced by. And everybody who really knows me knows, and Ev knows this, I'm a benefit of the doubt person, almost to a fault. I will give people the benefit of the doubt just too many times and get pie on my face because of it. But what I mean by that is that, you know, even as we've talked about, and the people who up here are MCs or producers, Ev, you talked about being influenced by Buckshot, but having to know when to stop that influence and find your own self. And me, you know, influenced by Premier. You know, if you listen to some of my beats on the ASR 10 from the 90s, they are the most Premier biting beats in the world. Not that I wanted to be Premier, but this was my idol. So it was like, okay, you know, and again, keeping this in mind that with hip hop, we don't have, if you didn't have an older brother, which I didn't have anybody teach me how to make beats. You know what I mean? I learned how to make beats because every Wednesday I used to come out, I would sit and listen to a Main Source CD and listen to what Large Professor was doing and try to emulate that. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's the same thing with white folk. If a white person really likes Alchemist even, I think, said, if I'm not mistaken, that a lot of his beats sounded very primo-ish in the beginning. You know what I mean? So is there a difference because Alchemist is white and I'm black that it's okay if my beats sound primo-ish? I'm not stealing from him. But if Alchemist is white and he does the same thing, then now he's stealing. So that's what I'm saying. It's confusing because, like Vern said, when do you know if it's I'm influenced by you or that I'm stealing it? Because I feel like if a white person does it, no matter what, they're stealing.
But you had a good point, though. You said you were influenced until you found your own sound. So are they finding their own sound, or are they just staying, quote unquote, influenced?
I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. I'll never forget this. There were times in hip hop, like in the 90s, when I would see some features that I found questionable. I'll say that. Like when I saw Gang Starr featuring Total, I kind of was like, huh? You know, when I saw Gang Starr featuring KC and JoJo, I was like, huh? Like there was some questionable fucking features going on around in this day. And it's wild because Gang Starr came out to Baltimore and they took us out to Dave and Buster's, all the radio people in the DC area. And I remember asking Guru something. I was like, yo, between me and you, why did Face make the album? Not that I had a problem with Scarface, let me put that out there, but I'm just like, I just don't see y'all two meshing well together. And he was like, that's my man. Like, why wouldn't I make an album with him? Or with KC and JoJo, he was like, them niggas get drunk and high, I get drunk and high. Like, yo, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And it made me look at hip-hop a little different because without that conversation, it just looks like on paper, oh, Gang Starr selling out because they got, you know, KC and JoJo. But then hearing Guru say it like, yo, we kick it in all kinds of circles. So if I kick it with Devontae and them and they cool, I can't rock with them. You know what I mean? And I'm just saying that because, you know, everything on the surface isn't always what it appears to be. So like I said, I don't know if Christina respects the genre. You know, I know with Justin, I know when Quest was doing the album with Al Green, that he was saying Justin was begging him night and day, please let me have something to do with this Al Green album because I love Al Green. To me, that's not a money grab because Al Green ain't making no fucking money dropping an album nowadays. You know, but again, without me keeping my ear to the street and hearing these stories, I would probably say, so I just almost feel like with white people, they can't, no matter, even if they respect it, they're still going to be looked at as stealing. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like from black to black, we have that, we're influenced and, you know, it's all good. But with white people, they don't even get that benefit of the doubt that I really, truly love it. And you don't find out until you can kick it with them and they can have those conversations with you and be shocked the same way Primo was that Christy, I saw the news face like, damn, she knew Living Proof. That's how Primo was. You know what I mean? That's how I was when I read the interview with Scratch. Like, damn, Christina, really, you wouldn't know that until you had that conversation. You know, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
You know, it was like that influence, and then to a point where he had his own sound. I feel like M is an influence of Redman and Pharoah Monch. That's just me personally. I feel like that was in his rotation. And he was influenced by them cats, and then he went with that, and then he found his own lane. I don't know if everybody finds their own lane, but I feel like I feel the same way about like Lil' Kim. I feel like Lil' Kim just would rhyme like whatever was hot at that moment. If 50 was hot, she sound like 50. If Jay was hot, she sound like Jay. If Biggie's hot, she sound like Biggie.
Well, keep in mind, she probably sound like them because they was writing the lyrics. So, I mean, I would probably have to say that.
I don't think 50 was writing for her. I mean, Biggie, yeah.
I mean, Big was writing for it. Jay was. I mean, here's the thing with these cats with Ghost Rider. Same thing with Dre. I mean, you had Dre sounding like Jay-Z on 2001, and T.I. was writing for Dre around the Detox time. So I remember on one of them Puff albums, Puff was rhyming exactly like Pharoah Monch because Pharoah and Black Blunt and them was writing.
I can't even put Puff in that category. He don't even.
No, they're not. I'm not putting Puff in that category. I'm just saying that there were rhymes on, I think it was the Forever album, that if you listen to it, you could obviously hear Pharoah wrote this because he sounded just like Pharoah Monch. So
I guess the point that I'm making is that as an artist, when you switch your style up, when you don't have a sound and your sound is somebody else's sound or whatever's hot, to me, that's in the same category as somebody just biting your style and then making their career off of that. It's one thing to be influenced. It's another thing to make your career off of somebody else's shit.
Nah, I got you.
But don't get me wrong. I'm a Led Zeppelin fan. But I know Led Zeppelin got some of their stuff from this other cat over here. Rolling Stones, they got some good shit. I know at this point, they didn't do it in the beginning, but in the 2000s, and they finally said, oh yeah, you know, Muddy Waters was our influence. I don't know if they did it. I don't know if they did that before that period of time, but I know, you know, they finally came around and was like, yeah, we were influenced by, you know, such and such and this and that.
All right, so you rock with Led, you rock with the Rolling Stones, but
I'm not a lot of like complete blood, man. I'm everywhere.
But would you say they stole it? Like you said, they were influenced.
Yeah, some of that shit was stolen. Oh, definitely. If you listen to some of Led stuff and you listen to, I can't think of the cat's name. Vic knows his name. If you listen to the track, it's almost word for word in a sense. But I think that's, you know, that goes across the board. I'll say some shit that kind of fuck you up. I think some of Marvin's shit was stolen.
I mean, I know you did from the I Want You album, from Leon Ware.
From Leon Ware, you know what I mean? Leon Ware actually sings like that. Marvin didn't start singing like that until he did I Want You. So I think, you know, some of that is, you know, there's some thievery involved. I think some cats are involved with that. I think influence is one thing, but I think influence is a thing that you get to a point and then you find your sound and then you perfect your sound from that point. That to me, that's artistry. Nothing is new under the sun. So you're going to be influenced by something, but it's about like taking that thing and then making it your own. But if you just take that thing and it's like, I'm gonna just keep using this thing and I'm gonna make money off this thing, and to go to Bruno Mars, I could be wrong, but I was in the store today and I heard a song and I think it was Bruno Mars, and that cat was doing James Brown. And I'm like, I mean, he was really doing James Brown. And I'm like, well, what the fuck is this? Like, when does it stop? Like, when do you find your own sound? And don't get me wrong, I like Bruno Mars. I think he's a talented cat. I think if he got that kind of flavor, that kind of rhythm, he can do it. Why not?
Well,
But
to your point,
he found that thing and he just kept going and going. And I think that's the reason why he has all this backlash now, because it's like, okay, so who is Bruno Mars?
well, to your point, Ev, before there was Bruno Mars, there was Michael Jackson, the king of pop, who was stealing from James Brown all day.
Yeah, but
see, what I'm talking about is it cool when black folk do it, because I feel like I feel like when a black folk said, because Michael can say, I was influenced by James, you know, I practiced his dance.
You don't think Michael had his own sound, though? You don't think Michael found his own sound?
I mean, I think he did, because I mean, of course, the James Brown sound got played out to a certain extent.
Right.
And again, I don't know if it was Michael's sound. I don't know if it was
Jackson ever sounded like James Brown. He never sounded like him. I was just saying that he danced like him. I definitely,
yeah, without question. Yes, no doubt.
Michael had his own voice, but dancing-wise, the artistry on top of the performance.
And he had some. Who was that? Was that Fred Astaire? Is that Fred Astaire? He had in it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard about that. Hey, what do you guys think about Bobby Caldwell?
No,
What
you want to do for love?
Leave Bobby Caldwell alone and leave Michael McDonald alone.
Oh no, Michael McDonald, first round draft pick in the race draft.
But again, I think it comes back to answer your question. I think Bobby Caldwell is extremely dope. What You Won't Do for Love, I remember hearing that as a shorty, my mom playing that and me loving it instantly. And at those times, we didn't know, because videos weren't what they are right now. I didn't know Hall & Oates weren't black. I thought they were black. You know, I know people. I think it was a couple of years ago at the BET Awards, Bobby Caldwell came out and Twitter blew up because it was like, oh shit, he white. Like, don't know that Bobby Caldwell is white. I was playing some Hall & Oates for Naomi one time in the car, and I'm like, Nay, what you think they are, black or white? She was like, they black, Daddy. I was like, nah, they white. So
I just grabbed some Hall & Oates, man. I love Hall & Oates.
Oh yeah.
And they from Philly.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the thing is too is that I think it just comes back to they were dope. You know what I mean? And I think at that time we really didn't have, in that generation, our parents' generation, really didn't have a time to say yay or nay, because they didn't know. All they had at that time was the radio. So your ears heard something. I was in a barbershop 2 days ago, and I asked the barber what he was listening to. He's like, yo, Kill, I'm going to blow your mind. I forgot the name of the group, but he was like, they're all white. And he played it, and I was like, yo, this sounds like some Adia Davenport. Like, he was like, yo, but Shorty is white. You know what I mean?
Oh, so Hiatus Coyote.
Nah.
Hiatus Coyote.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I heard that shit. I heard that shit.
Oh yeah.
All right. So yeah, I don't know about that, but to answer your question, I love Bobby Caldwell, loved Hall & Oates, loved Tina Marie, loved all those, you know,
Steely Dan, Bob Skaggs.
Yeah, and I never looked at them again as blue-eyed soul. I just looked at it as they're just dope music, you know, like that was it, you know. But again, I just think that there are white, and again, and I tell this to my kids all the time, because the organization I work for is predominantly white. You know, I'm the only black man who works there, and a lot of my kids growing up in the hood are like, oh, okay, all white people are fucked up, they're bad, they're racist. And I'm like, nah, they're good white people. To me, they're good people and they're bad people. This is how I live my life. This is how I raise my daughter. They're good black people, they're fucked up black people. They're good white people, they're fucked up white people.
Yep.
Like that, and that's just, so that's how I look at life. They're good and bad. Of course, there are white people who are going to take our culture and rape it. A lot of times I feel like it's the white executives who are really taking our culture and raping it, and maybe not more so the artists. You know, this artist may be singing the way he wants to sing, and then he gets signed and the white executive says, no, you're going to sound like fill in the blank. You know what I mean? So, but that's just my opinion about that. You know what I mean? So when we're looking at these white artists, and this happens with black artists too. Y'all know I love Lenny Kravitz to death. Anytime I read a review from Lenny Kravitz, especially by white writers, they're always like, "Oh, he's biting the Rolling Stones," or "He's biting this," and I'm just like, "What is this, reverse racism? Like, how are these white writers now saying a black man is stealing from white artists?" Like,
of all groups, use the Rolling Stones, like the biggest writers on the planet, really?
But I mean, it's like reverse racism. It's like, how y'all gonna say Lenny is stealing? Like, so, and I feel like there's this, you know, there came a time, I think, in hip hop, right around the time when Low End came out, when everybody, what my nigga Jizza say on Chappelle show, everybody wants to diversify their funds, nigga. You know what I mean?
Diversify your funds.
It's like up the Low End theory, everybody black, just like hip hop. That was it. Around Low End theory, everybody became a fucking jazz theologist. It was like, oh no, it's Coltrane. I love Miles. I love Dizzy. I always tell people, the average nigga, all these records, dog, I probably know about 5% of these records. You know what I mean? As far as the music behind it. So I think now because I chop it up with people that are like-minded with me, we're all saying we listen to different types of music. I think the average black hip-hop head only listens to black hip-hop. You know what I mean? So they're not going to really be able to honestly say, oh, I know about Steely Dan, or I know more about Chicago because my mom used to play a lot of that than I know Steely Dan. So like, the average person isn't going to be as, I guess, diversified as we are in what we're listening to. Anytime somebody gets in my car, they swear they're just going to hear hip hop. You know what I mean? And you could hear anything when you get in my car on any given day of the week. You know, so I'm just always leery with, again, where, you know, the influence stops. And I guess just to make my point, because now I'm starting to ramble, it's just, I feel like it's the white executives more than it's the white artists that are, I guess, raping our culture. I mean, if Justin wants to rock with Timbaland, why not? Shit, black folk want to rock with Timbaland. You know what I mean? Like, if he want to rock with Pharrell, why not? Black folk want to rock with Pharrell. And I don't know if he's rocking with Pharrell to get a hit, or if he's rocking with Pharrell just because they make good music together. I think the first 2020 project, 5 mics to me. You know what I mean? So I think Justin and Timbaland have a great chemistry together. They're like Gangstar to me. They're like Pete and CL Smooth. They make great music together. I don't want that shit to end, you know. But what do you think to what Ed was saying about Bobby Caldwell? You know, the '80s, you know, Blue Eyed Soul. You know, how do you feel, Gnu, about them?
You asking, like, you know, do I like the music?
Did you rock with them?
Yeah, man. Like, you know, when I listen to music, you know, I tune color out, man. I tune it out and I take it in for what it is, man. You know, if it sounds, long as it sounds authentic, you know, I'm a rock with it. You know what I mean? So I don't, you know, color, you know, whether these guys are white, black, whatever, you know, it don't really faze me.
All right, what about you, Jace?
I'm sorry, pose the question again, Kill.
No. Just what did you think about Bobby Caldwell, the Blue Eyed Soul singers? Like, did you have a problem with him when you found out Hall & Oates was white? Was you like, nah, fuck this shit, take my records back? Or, you know, how did you feel when you found out Tina Marie was white? Or, you know, did it change your opinion of their music?
So my mother kind of opened me up to music. My father was more on the funk side. My mom was all over the place. I knew Hall & Oates was white when I was 5. Didn't bother me. I grew up in a house in Chicago, was played just as much as Earth, Wind & Fire. I knew about Stevie Ray Vaughan before any black person I ever met in my life could tell me about him because of my mother. Where the average black person would talk about Jimi Hendrix, I could talk to you about Stevie Ray Vaughan and how he was influenced by Jimi. No, it didn't. It's never bothered me. Good music is good music, and it doesn't matter what genre it is, period.
All right, what about you, Var?
So on my way home yesterday from a stressful day, I put this on Instagram. Audio therapy. I had a Layla Hathaway song, a Oleta Adams song, a Tears for Fears, Sowing the Seeds of Love, Bread, Karen Wheeler, Alex Isley, Souls of Mischief, The Carpenters, and I finished it up with the Isley Brothers. I'm thankful that y'all all seen I Think I Love My Wife, and she had a phrase on there. You have N-word ears. And I think there was a time, I mean, in the 70s and to the early 80s, it was just music. I mean, if you think about Friday night videos and night tracks, we was watching freaking Van Halen and Michael Jackson and the Prince, and then Bonnie Raitt or whatever. And if it was good, it was good. And that's, I think, I'm glad I'm that way, because I can't stand urban radio because it's just so, it's the same song all day long.
And not only that, Vern, but back then too, like in the inception of MTV, you only had your MTV Raps for 30 minutes to an hour.
Right.
That's it.
That's it. So you had to expand. And then if you think about it musically, why does it seem like musicians were better back then than they are now? Because you had a wider range. My uncle played drums for the church. He would listen to Yes, AC/DC, Yellow Jackets, Weather Report, Billy Cobham, some country and western, all that stuff to get his chops, and it made him doper. Whereas if he just like played church music, that his scope was narrow. And I think music has become so narrow, and that's why it's not as good as it was, the mainstream, I should say. That's just my rant.
Now, it's crazy you bring up Friday night videos, because I think that's a huge thing. I mean, the Eurythmics.
Yeah.
Annie Lennox.
Heart.
There was a lot of groups. One of my favorite groups ever, and it always bugs people out, is Duran Duran.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
All right. Hell yeah.
Yeah, Hungry Like the Wolf,
Reflex.
Girls on Film.
Yeah.
What was the group that George Michael was with before he went?
Wham.
Yeah.
And I think, Vern, you bringing that up with Friday night videos, and Jace, like you said, with MTV, is just, I remember the thing is too, is I think it also helped. My mom's best friend was white. My grandfather remarried a white woman, so my aunt is mixed, but she's like hung with white folk in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So when I would go visit her, she's older than me, she'd be playing Duran Duran. I'd be like, yo, this stuff is kind of dope, And I remember being the only dude on my block in the hood talking about Duran Duran. And my like, yo, fuck these niggas. They dude look like he wearing makeup. I'm like, yo, man, fuck that. Just put the record on. Like, fuck what they look like listen to the music or whatever like that. So I think, Vern, you bring up a great point with people who are our age. We kind of had a scope that was bigger. Whereas I think if I'm 10 and 86, if you're 10 and 96, I don't know if you have the scope of outside black music. Like your scope is like Bad Boy Records, Rockefeller Records, it's No Limit Records, Cash Money Records. I don't know if the 10-year-old who was 10 in 1996 is gonna have that same scope, because I mean, let's keep it funky. 9 times out of 10, if we had the allotment of music in 96, in 86, we probably wouldn't know about the Eurythmics, or different groups like that. We would have been turning the channel, but it was like, nah, I just want to see a video. So I got to look at all this other stuff. You know what I mean? What you going to say, Adam?
I was going to say that I think too, a big part of that for me personally was kind of like hip hop, because during that time, was sample based hip hop.
Yeah.
Because the sample made you go dig for you like the sample so much, you started digging for the record, and you found out all about all these other groups. And for me, it just opened up a huge door. And if we look at it too on another scale, the way that Rick Rubin assisted with Def Jam is the same way. Like, I can't think of these two white dudes' names, but the two cats that work with Stevie on some of Stevie's dopest shit. People don't realize, like, he had these two white cats that had the same shit all going on that really attributed to that sound that we love from Stevie. Yeah. So they don't take, they're like, yo, Stevie, he got it in, he killed it. But they helped, like, form a lot of that stuff. And I think, shit, Rufus was white. Rufus and Shaka, like, Rufus was a white dude. So I think good music is good music. And I think that it's a very true thing when we say music is universal language. Universal language is colorless. If it's good, it's good. If it's dope, it's dope. I'm a Fleetwood Mac fan. For real. But it's just like, so for me, it's to look at it from a color-based lens. I can't even do this to this day. If it's dope, if it's something that's dope, it's dope. Yeah. It's dope. I don't care. Like, who's that? The cat. Fat Freddy's Drop or something like that. I can't think of the band's name out of Australia, but they're stupid. But when I first heard them, I thought they were from like a Jamaican reggae band. But you know what I mean? But they wasn't. They were some cats from Australia who's doing some dope music. I think dope music is dope music, man. And I think music is the one art form that can like really, like, you know, if we allow it to be its art form in its truest form, there is no color line for it.
All right. I feel y'all. I just, you know, I'm hearing some good positive things. I'm just always wondering when, you know, we hear a white person, maybe and what I'm trying to say is that it sounds good. It sounds good. I feel like we taking the essence.
Yeah, you're right.
I feel like we in a job interview. Like we sounded real, you know, but when shit hits the fan and there's a white rapper who sounded like Royce, or there's a white rapper sounding like somebody else, or there's
like Action Bronson sounding like Ghost.
Exactly. Like then it's gonna be like, are we gonna be up in arms? I don't like Action Bronson not because he's white. I don't like Action Bronson because he sounds like Ghostface.
That's my whole point.
I think that's thievery. Thievery is thievery. You know what I mean? Music, like your.
But here's the thing. But here's the thing. Me and you talked about this with your old Drew, sounding like Nas. You know what I mean? Here's the thing. If you sound like somebody, I don't know if Action necessarily sounds like Ghost. This is where I lean on you lyricists, for y'all who rap. So Eb Gnu, I know you rap. Ed, I'm not sure if you rhyme. Vern, I know you tried it. This is when I lean on you. Does Action Bronson sound like Ghost's rhyme style, or does he just sound like Ghost? Because when I put on Action Bronson's song, I'm like, I hear Ghostface. Take this out. Let me hear some Ghostface. So I can't even put Action Bronson album because I'm like, I want to hear some Ghostface. But is it the way he sounds, or is he literally biting Ghost style? We talked about this with your old Drew. When I first heard your old Drew, niggas gave him to me like, yo, this people told me, yo, Kill, it's this dude, your old Drew, who is Nas, but he wants to do real street shit, and he doesn't want his label to fuck with him. So this is Nas, and I'm listening to it like it sounds like Nas, but I don't think this is Nas. So is Action Bronson biting Ghostface, or does he just sound like him?
Well, I think with the biting thing, I'll tread lightly, because I think there's a thin line between listening to some people that you influenced by too much. And I think that was my thing in the beginning with Buckshot. I realized if I keep listening to Buckshot and only Buckshot, I'm just going to write and sound like Buckshot, because that's all I'm listening to. Am I trying to bite Buckshot? No, but I'm just too influenced by him because that's all I'm allowing my ears to listen to. Yeah. So I don't know what Action Bronson process was, but I think Action Bronson's style and voice is Ghostface.
Okay. All right. What about you, Danilo?
Yeah, I think that I think Action Bronson he bites his. I don't want to say bite, but his voice and his style he took from Ghostface, but I don't think his content is Ghostface based. But I think definitely you know, his sound and his rhyme style is definitely good. And then this cat, he got on ESPN and tried to say that he wasn't biting off Ghost, and that you know, Ghost. Did y'all see that? Maybe a year or two ago. Yeah. He tried to act like he don't sound like Ghost. I didn't like that, you know, but yeah, I think he biting his style and his sound, man.
All right,
content.
What about you, Ed?
Yeah, I thought he sounded a lot like Ghostface. Content wise, a little different, but still had a lot of similarities as far as like just kind of wild out there stories. I mean, when you listen to Ghostface, a lot of times he has like these crazy stories, and I think that's kind of what Action Bronson brought as well. You know, he had these kind of wild stories, but there's differences, but I think it's close enough that I could tell. I mean, I could see why Ghostface kind of felt a certain way about it, especially after Action Bronson said what he said on ESPN.
Right.
So.
Right. I mean, again, I don't know and I wasn't even mad at him being white. I damn near forget Action Bronson is white half the time. I'm just like, you sound like Ghost, so I can't get through your music. You know what I mean? But again, I guess we're all saying the same thing at the end of the day. if the music is dope, that's all we really care about. You know, so whether it's black or white, if it's whack, we don't want to hear it. No matter if it's black or white, if it's dope, we do want to hear it. I just do think that it's if there anybody is white, to me, it's the executives that are, you know, the culture vultures, as Dame Dash would say, or the new catchphrase now. And a lot of times not the artists. And I'm not saying that there aren't artists. I'm just saying I think the majority of the artists, especially if you're taking the time to learn how to play an instrument and you're taking time to perfect your craft, I do believe, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, that you're trying to learn. You know, now again, when you get into that record label and they say we want you to sound like this or we want you to sound like that, or you ain't gonna get this check with 7 figures. I mean, that's the same thing that black folk come up against. You know, I can't tell you how many black folk have sold out for that check, you know, so I can't, again, so I'll give the artist the benefit of the doubt more than I will give the executives, because the executives are the ones who are going to make the money, make the most money, not necessarily the artist. Vern, do you have any other last points or anything about race or anything with the whole black and white thing?
I would say, I'll put it to you this way, like you said, if it's dope, it's dope. And as you were talking about different people, I thought about Rod Temperton. Ooh, you love Heat Wave. You love Off the Wall. Rod Temperton was a big part of that. A white guy from England. He dope. Nobody even knows. The average person doesn't know that. So that's why I can't go into the lens of, oh, he's a white or he's black. If you dope, you dope, and that's all I care about. So as long as you dope, I'm good with it.
Now tell me this, Vern. See, I'm trying to close out the show, and you keep bringing up good points, good brother. Here's the thing, and Ev, you touched on it with producers. A lot of times when we think of an artist's sound, it usually comes from the producer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when we think of the Gang Starr sound, we look at what Guru did without Primo, we look at what Guru did with Primo. You know what I'm saying? So that Gang Starr sound that we know and love, I remember getting Hard to Earn and popping it in, and I forgot. What's the first song, Ev? Because I know that's your favorite Gang Starr joint.
I can't think of it. I got to hang it up somewhere.
All right.
Long way to go.
No, a long way to go, yeah.
Long way to go came on, and we was in the car. We was going back to Morgan, coming from Towson, and me and my crew was like, all right, this is cool, but this ain't the gangsta. You know, it's cool. And then when Code of the Streets came on, then we was like, yeah, this we like this the Gang Starr sound that we want. This what we talking about.
Yeah.
You bring up Rod Temperton. You bring up Heat Wave. You bring up Michael Jackson. Could we say that a white man gave them their sound?
No, I don't think
he helped with it.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping on.
No, you're good. No, you're good. No.
Ev, you know, he's still an X-Clan. Go ahead, Ev. What you? Go ahead.
Ev.
I would say no. I would say, you know, in the studio, man, it's a collaborative process, and I think that Rod Temperton, said. Let me ask this question: is Quincy Jones a part of this?
Yes.
This cipher.
Well, keep in mind. I just brought up Rod Temperton. This is where y'all know more about R&B. I never claim to be this is where we need JR. I don't claim to know the liner notes of Heat Wave and all that. It's just when, even if we just keep it to Heat Wave, then you know what I mean. If we just keep it to Heat Wave, don't bring in Quincy Jones. But I just know in hip hop, think about this when we're talking about, yo, I know for me, again, it may just be the producer in me, but I'm always like, man, I wish this rapper would get with that producer. Why? Because that producer has a certain sound that I like that I think would match this MC style. You know, we've seen CL Smooth without Pete Rock. We haven't liked him. We've seen him with Pete Rock. We love him. Like, did Pete Rock give CL his sound? I would probably have to. Well, he gave CL the sound that I think we all liked. You know, I would have to say Primo gave Guru the sound that we all like. The people who like Gang Starr didn't necessarily like them Jasmine Taz out. You know what I'm saying? Did Timbaland give us the sound that we like from Genuine? I know once Genuine stopped rocking with Timbaland, I stopped rocking with with Genuine. You know what I mean? So all these artists did Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis give Janet her sound? Yeah. I know what Janet sounded like after Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and it ain't the shit I like with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So I would have to say these producers are giving these artists a sound. I've heard Buckshot with the beat miners. I've heard them without the beat miners. I'm gonna take them with the beat miners. So with that being said, I would have to say Rod Temperton, a white man, gave Heatwave, a very influential black group of the 70s, their sound.
See, I wouldn't say Primo gave Guru his sound or Pete gave CL his sound. I think Primo and Guru gave Gangstar its sound. And Pete Rock and CL gave Pete Rock and CL Smooth that sound. I think Pete Rock, and you don't hear, like if you do Pete Rock by itself, it doesn't sound like Pete Rock and CL Smooth because it's not Pete Rock and CL Smooth.
But here's the thing, but we're talking about the beats. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the beats.
I don't think that aspect kill your bias looking at it from a beat maker.
Yeah, it did.
Without taking into consideration of
the rhymes.
All right, well, hold tight. Let me throw this in, and I'm just saying this. Did anybody hear or like the CL Smooth that the Heat Makers, which are dope producers? I think, Arsonist from the Heat Makers, him on IG, that nigga keeps me wanting to get them beats. But guess what? Did anybody hear that Pete Rock? Did anybody hear that CL Smooth album?
What was the name of it?
Let me bring this back. This is what we're gonna do. By raising hands, how many people up here like CL Smooth?
How many people like CL Smooth?
How many people like CL Smooth?
I mean, when you say like, what do you mean? Like, am I a fan?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. When Reminisce comes on, are you fucking singing the words? When
I don't like CL without Pete.
All right, somebody just said something. They don't like CL without Pete. Now,
I'll say that.
He kept it moving. So when your ear was ready, so I feel you, Jace. Maybe it is the producer in me, but I know enough MCs who, like when you said did CL own sound. But guess what? When CL went to the Heat Makers, that sound didn't work together because the Heat Makers sound good with the Diplomats.
Okay, so check this out. If Grand Puba was on Reminisce, I wouldn't like it the same way. It goes both ways. You can't have one without the other.
That's a good point.
But what I'm just saying is, and Jace, you may be right, but what I'm just saying is that I'm sure it was more than just producers who were like, I'm not feeling this Guru with MC Solar or whoever he was with. I know it wasn't just producers who was like, I'm not feeling this new CL album without Pete Rock. I know I'm not the only Genuine fan who was like, nah, I'm not rocking with him without Timbaland. I know I'm not the only
with Timbaland. You act like you didn't put no duds out because Pete got some duds too without CL.
No, I'm not saying that they're duds, but what I'm saying is I know I'm not the only Janet fan who stopped like being like, I'm not feeling this new Janet.
Yeah, so you don't like Janet with a Velvet Rope?
That was still Jimmy Jam. They was rocking with Janet was still with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis with the Velvet Rope, which is my favorite Janet album. It got iffy when she got with Jermaine Dupri. And that's when it went off. And that's when Janet got whacked. One of the shows I want to do is I never understand why these people who have these producer group lineups, why you leave. Because guess what? Once you leave, your music is never as dope. That's not my opinion. That is a fact. The only person I know who got doper when they left their original producer was Aaliyah. Because with R. Kelly, everybody was like, oh shit, Aaliyah going downhill. And then she got with Timbaland and Missy when they was young and hungry, and she got even doper.
Wait a minute, are you talking about R&B or are you talking about hip-hop?
I'm saying in general. Throw me a group. Did Public Enemy get better without the Bomb Squad? We could throw any group.
Let's go. Busta?
I would say Outkast.
I don't know who Busta.
With leaders? I'm saying with leaders. With leaders?
Huh?
Busta with various producers. He still grew.
No? I mean, I don't know if I love. You know what? If you say so, you know me. I'll take your opinion. I'm not a huge Busta fan, so I can't say if he still grew or. I always like Busta songs. I've never really loved the whole Busta album. So, but if you say so, then I'm not gonna argue with you if you say so.
I mean, I think that when it comes to artistry, people can. I think you're gonna get a certain sound when two people come together. I think it's two people coming together. I don't think it's one person making the other person go, or one person. I mean, I think they are who they are. When they come together, you get a certain type of vibration from that shit, and sometimes that shit just rocks and that shit just bangs.
All right,
that's what it is.
Here's the thing: I don't want to keep nobody, so if anybody got to go, it's all good. But y'all keep bringing up too many damn points to end the show. I'm looking at it like this: let's take Black Moon, right? I'm sure Evil D was making beats, right? I could be wrong because I don't know. I wasn't in Brooklyn, but he's making beats. Buckshot comes over. He hears the beats. He rhymes on it. There was a Black Moon sound. There was a Beatminerz sound around the Boot Camp Click that we all loved. Okay, when they did that album For the People, when Boot Camp Click did their first crew album, and I remember being hyped for this, and I heard that shit, it was horrible because that sound, which was the Beatminerz, was not there. Think of how many more. Hold tight. Think of how many. Think about when Smith and Wesson became the Cocoa Brothers. That second album wasn't shit, and I know I ain't the only person who felt like that album wasn't shit.
But not compared to that first album.
On the production, you also got to look at the fact. Okay, we're talking about MCs, right? And you're talking about the span of an MC. So when Black Moon came out, when Smith and Wesson came out, their first album, as we all know, you have your whole life to do your first album. You have your whole life to develop that sound. You have some of your life to do your second album. At some point in time, MCs are their pen, and I said this before, if you change the environment of MC is where the environment that they live, their inspiration comes from their environment. If they shift environment, their pen is going to sound different. They're not going to sound the same. But here's completely different. That's a factor too.
Here's the thing. Here's the funny part about it. Because Smith and Wesson still sounded the same, but the sound changed. Now here's the other thing.
It didn't sound the same.
Hold tight. Here's the two of spades. This ain't even a big joker. This is just the two of spades. They had a song on that second album called Spanish Harlem with Hurricane and Tony Touch, produced by the Beatminerz. That shit sounded just as dope as it was back when they was doing The Shining, 3 years after The Shining. So when you got that sound, you sounded just as dope. So your is at the same place, writing at the same time, but when it's with a different producer, shit sounds whack. You get with the Beatminerz, I'm like, boom, Spanish Harlem is banging. Play Spanish Harlem off that album versus anything else, it's night and day, because that was the Boot Camp sound. Same thing with RZA.
You just said it. That was the Boot Camp sound. That is the sound that your ear knows. That is the sound that they. That's the, no. Let me finish. Let me finish. If that's the case, like, and they've been working with Beatminerz their whole entire career. Of course, with all of that, they're gonna know how to get in there. They're gonna know how to find a pocket with the beat, because that's that synergy. They've been doing it their whole life, so of course it's going to be like that. But to add to your question from earlier, how you feel about Pharcyde?
Keep in mind, I wasn't a big Pharcyde fan. So I really can't. You know me. If I can't answer intelligently because I wasn't a big Pharcyde fan.
Okay.
But what was the point you want to make? Like, I want to.
The point that your early question, as far as when a group leaves their first producer and they go with a different producer, do they actually get better? And my answer to that is, well, how do you feel about the Pharcyde?
So Pharcyde.
I actually, I know I might be minority in this opinion from people that rock with the Pharcyde from the beginning, but I like the second album better. I like the Jay Dilla production. Yeah.
But I think the hard part with that is, well, let me first ask this: who was the original?
Jay, you see this, Jason, right? You see what he's doing, right?
What am I doing? What am I doing? What? I'm not hiding no cards. I'm not counting cards. What am I doing?
Play it, Kill. You got you. We went. You got it. Like, yo, it's like being on a tennis court. He gonna come back with something. He gonna hit something some kind of way.
Listen to what I'm saying is, I don't even know Pharcyde's original producer. I didn't know. I mean, I knew Dilla did Running and Drop, but I didn't know Dilla did the whole second album.
So now I'll pose.
He didn't do the whole second album.
I
did like half of it.
What were you gonna say, Jason? Who was the Pharcyde's first producer?
No.
Jay Swift.
All right, Jay Swift. All right, so you were saying that the Pharcyde got better because, do we know like who else produced the album? If Dilla just did a couple? Because the reason why I was gonna say that was this: you got an MC that I love, signed to Nas's label, for Sean. You know what I mean? I love dude. He's an ill MC. he did a project with Alchemist that I absolutely love. Had me hyped. You know, he dropped his album with Nas's Mass Appeal with a different producer, and I was just bored to tears. You know what I mean? Now, here's the thing. If it's hard, like if Jay Swift is their first producer and then you come in with Dilla in 95, like fuck yeah, that shit is gonna be better than Jay Swift.
You brought the question.
No. And keep in mind, I'm not saying that I couldn't be wrong. Like I said, well, I will add the Far Side to the list of Aaliyah, that there is one other group that got better when they left. Not only, but what I mean by the original producers, that we'll add Far Side to the list. What were you gonna say?
All right, here goes.
I was gonna say,
how you feel about Common?
I like Common with no ID. I was not
like Water for Chocolate. Wasn't one of your favorites?
Fuck no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Okay.
Anybody who knows me knows my favorite Common is One Day It'll All Make Sense. I want to say the second one is probably B, and then Resurrection. Then for Water for Chocolate.
Is that far down? Okay.
I mean, but I don't think that's a knock because all those albums are good. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? If Common's up to Electric Circus, his discography is really tight. I mean, you go from Resurrection to One Day to like Water for Chocolate, that's a tight little niche right there. You know, like to me, they're like almost like Outkast. Like I've met people who say they go ATLian, Stankonia, Aquemini. I know people who go Southern Playalistics, Aquemini. Like there are certain groups who you can fluctuate with, you know, their music. So again, it's not that like Water for Chocolate was dope.
What about LL Cool J?
Ooh.
Ooh. All right. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, you brought up Fashawn. There was a misconception. I've heard people saying like his first album, who it was produced by, it was actually produced by Exile, who's an underground producer. He produced Blue and Exile Below the Heavens.
Yeah.
And actually that was an example that I was gonna use, Blue, because that was his album that he really blew up. And after that, he went on and he put out other albums with different producers, and nobody was feeling it until he came back with Exile and put out the second album. I think it was called Give Me My Flowers or something like that.
Right.
But everyone was like, nah, we ain't trying to hear this, man. Give me that stuff with Exile.
Right. And I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I got one last one. This is your favorite group, Outkast.
Right. Ron was just going to say that.
I think I love Southern Playalistic, but I think they grew and got, but they didn't suffer for not being with Organized.
How you feel, Kill?
Nah, I agree.
So that theory. So can we safely say that the theory? We can throw the theory out the window.
Here's the thing, y'all, and I apologize if I said Ev, you know I'm married. I never try to say always and never. Those two words that always get you in trouble if you're married. You always do, and you never do. You know. So I try to stay away from those words. So I apologize. You're right. I did say this is fact. It is not fact. Let me say this. The majority of groups who leave their original producer and have a sound, they struggle until they come back with that producer. Like Ed's point is good. I know people who will say, hey, I will take this such and such album if they get back with this. Like there's not going to be any CL Smooth album that will sell unless it's like he's getting back with Pete Rock. Like if you want to put some excitement behind people, it's the same thing rappers do when they do bullshit albums. They always want to come back and name it, what was my best album? Cuban Links? Oh, this is going to be Cuban Links 2. What was my best album? This is going to be Muddy Waters 2. You know right now, Ghostface working on Supreme Clientele 2. Like, it's that, Nas, I fucked up. Stillmatic. Like, it's Illmatic Part 2. It's like, that's how you get the hype back because what's the big joke with Jay-Z? We're always hoping he's going to go back to Reasonable Doubt. Like, you know, he'd come out with DOA. Everybody get hyped like, oh shit, he's back. And then we get all this other bullshit. Like, that's what we're always hoping for. We're always hoping that these artists go back to the sound that we love. You know what I mean? So again, I'm not saying it. If I did say it never happened, I apologize. There are groups, but trust me.
Is that our fault? Or is that the artist's fault, or is that our fault for not growing with the artist?
Good question.
It depends.
Let me tell you this.
I'll be here all night.
Y'all want to keep showing up. We ain't talking about white folk no more. Now here's the problem. If your shit is dope, you know what? This all ties right back into what we were saying. If it's dope, it's dope. If it's whack, it's whack. I'll tell people all the time, I cannot play a lick of an instrument. Not one. Nothing. Okay? So if I decide to say, you know what, y'all, I don't want to sample no more. I'm going to play the keyboard. And Jace, you come over my house and I play you some keyboard beat that sounds stupid and you say this is whack. Guess what I'm gonna say as an artist? You're not growing with me. You're keeping me stuck in a box, and I can't be in a box and let me grow. And well, nigga, sure, if the shit is good, but if your shit is whack, then you can't grow. Like everybody think they Prince. Like Prince, like I never took a music lesson. I can be like Prince. I will never take a music lesson. Like no, my nigga. Like Outkast was one of those few people who were able to go out and do different things and grow, and they still kept their sound dope. I remember when Vibrant thing came out and Breathe and Stop, niggas was looking like this at Tip. Like this shirt off. Fuck it. What's going on right now? Because that shit wasn't whack. Electric Circus, come the hell on. Like there are just certain points that, you know, if you want to grow and you can be dope, that's great. And Nick made a great point that maybe the Atlanta groups can do it because Atlanta is more free flowing. And New York is more like you got to be hard. You got your Timbs on. It's the inner city because CeeLo went from being a rapper to a singer with Gnarls Barkley, and to me Gnarls Barkley was dope. Yeah. Q-Tip and Common both tried to do what I won't say only up top, but like what Mos Def could do. Mos Def could do that Umi Says, and it's dope. Mos can sing. He could do all kinds of stuff in his rhymes. And just Mos could do that. I don't want it. Common and Tip couldn't do that. You know what I mean? So I think it's the artist's fault. You can grow all you want, but if your shit is whack, I'm not going to rock with you. Yeah. So to answer your question, you can grow, you know, but if it's whack, but I've heard artists go and try to throw the big joker like, well, you're not letting me grow. It's like, no, just grow and be dope. Outkast and Havoc are two people that were able to go from not being producers to being a producer on the next album, and it was mind-blowing to me. You know, because Havoc, if I'm not mistaken, really didn't do anything on the first Mobb Deep album. That was like Primo and Large Pro and other people were doing stuff. So for Havoc to take and be able to watch and see what Cats was doing and then come back and make the Infamous, that's incredible. For Outkast to both not be producers and to kind of just sit in the dungeon and watch what Organized Noise is doing and then come back and make ATLiens, that shit is not the norm. Like that's not the norm, that you're just going to be able to. I would always wonder that with CL Smooth. Like, CL, you wasn't watching Pete make these beats. Why can't you make your own beats? Like, you know, Guru, you like Ev, you said this is the synergy. Like, you wasn't watching Premier Chop Samples, Guru. Why ain't you as ill as like, you know what I mean? So that's not the norm. You know, of course it can happen, but that's not gonna be the norm. That, you know, that truly to this day still amazes me that Havoc did not make beats in 1995. I mean, in 1993, and then in 1995, this nigga makes a 5 Mic classic out. Like, that shit's amazing to me.
But yo,
what happened?
Q-Tip had a lot to do with that.
Yeah. I'm not saying that, but what I'm just saying is, he fucked the album. The fact that you made Shook Ones.
Yeah, like,
yeah. Know how to use the beat machine. And then you made Shook Ones and Survival of the Fittest and Right Back at You. Like, that's amazing to me. The fact that Outkast didn't know how to make beats, and literally the next album you're making Elevators and Jazzy and Two Dope Boys in the Cadillac and that type stuff. That's amazing, but that's not the norm. You're going to be very hard pressed to find a producer who's never produced, come to my crib, get a couple of lessons, and then go home and make a 5 Mic out. Like,
yo, not to interrupt, I gotta go, yo. I gotta put the little one to sleep.
All right.
Peace, love.
Thank you, man. X-Clear, brother. X, appreciate you.
Man, glorious.
Right, man, glorious. Thank you. Yo, keep it real.
Peace.
But my bad, Ed, what were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, I was gonna make an example of where I think certain groups need to part ways with their producer, and it may sound sacrilegious, but look at Wu-Tang. I think probably starting at 8 Diagrams, Did anyone here like 8 Diagrams?
See, good brother, you lost me because after Wu-Tang Forever,
I don't even know what that.
Yeah.
I heard
them, but I couldn't even tell you which album that's they third, fourth, eighth, fifth. I couldn't
see. So here's my point with that. I think that fans of Wu, right? You had all the solo albums, especially Ghostface, because Ghostface was going out. He was working with different producers and all that, right? Now you come back. I think you had Iron Flag, you had the W, but 8 Diagrams was, I think everyone thought it was trash. You had RZA, who started to do movie scoring. He started getting into all this other stuff that he kind of lost touch. And I think everyone came back together for 8 Diagrams. They didn't have the chemistry. I think RZA wanted to kind of take control. He had this scoring mindset. He wanted to do his grand stuff, and it just fell apart, man. It wasn't good.
I mean, I think the thing that may be is that, you know, all producers and to me MCs kind of had their period. You know, there was a period when RZA was the dopest producer. Like, I don't know if there's even, you know, an argument about that. There was a time when Pete Rock was the dopest producer. I know people have forgotten about. There was a time when Kanye West was the dopest producer. You know what I mean? So everybody kind of has that 2-year span of when you just the man. Same thing in the NBA. Most players kind of had a 2 to 3 year window of being an all-star and all those things. Of course, unless you're Jordan or Bron, and you're just always there. But I think the problem is when you look at Ray's second album, I think the biggest problem with Immobilarity was RZA wasn't there. You know, the first thing everybody said is, what's up with these beats? The only beat I liked off that album was Sneakers that Pete Rock did. You know what I mean? So I think that was the problem, that it was missing. So you're right. RZA did kind of go off and kind of grow the Wu. And at that point, I think all those extra Wu albums just didn't even need to be Wu albums. You know what I mean? And again, I don't know if that was, and keeping in mind, when you're in a group, I watched this documentary on Bon Jovi, and it really made me understand that when you're the lead singer, how hard that shit has to be on you. Because Bon Jovi is straight. I mean, John is straight. Like, you know, he got his little not fake NFL. He got his other little football team that whatever Arena League football, he's doing his thing. But the rest of the people in the band ain't eating if they not touring. You know, John want to be at home with his family and his kids, but it's like, oh, these my niggas, I got to go on tour. You know what I mean? So I think for me to get excited about a Wu-Tang album again, it'd have to say produced by RZA. You know, but if RZA's mind's not there, then that's what you get. You know what I mean? So I think that's the problem. Anytime somebody says, Kill, you want another Common album? Most times when people ask me that, there's always the asterisk. Do you want another Outkast album? If it's produced by Outkast and Organized Noise and Dre ain't singing and he's rapping. Like, it's very hard for me to just be like, I want an album, period. There's always an asterisk, you know? So that's it for me. But I do agree that at that point, RZA should have then passed the baton to the 4th disciple or the 28th disciple or whoever the hell else.
little Lotus Flower.
Yeah, Lotus Flower. I don't know what RZA was, you know, mentoring at the time. Get him who still has that Wu-Tang sound. But that's what I mean. So going back to the original question, back to Vern, would you say that then a white man gave Heatwave their sound?
Yes, I would say that unequivocally.
Okay.
To that question, yeah.
All right.
I mean, cause think about this is the same bass line. A lot of people don't even catch it. Off the Wall, boom, 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 boom. That's the same bass line from Heatwave, Boogie Nights. That's right.
Wow. True.
All right. So again, I'm just giving the benefit of the doubt. We can't throw, and I feel like this is what we do. It goes back to my original statement: good people, bad people.
That's it.
I don't think we can throw all white people under the bus, because I think when we start to peel back the layers, when we look at the Funk Brothers of Motown, I didn't realize so many of them was white. You know what I mean? So when we start to peel back the layers, you may actually be shocked to find that there are white folk at the essence of the R&B and the soul that we love. You know what I mean? Jace, any last comments on race and music?
No.
All right, Jace X with the black hat. What about you, man?
Nah, I think we pretty much set a mouthful, my brother.
Yeah.
No doubt, no doubt. Ed, what about you?
I want to make one last point of someone who did add to the culture, and that's LP. He came out with a Company Flow classic album, Funk Crusher Plus. Then he put out Cannibal Ox, which was kind of an underground classic. And even now, the 3 Run the Jewel albums with Killer Mike. So that's a white guy, white producer, MC, who added something to the hip-hop culture. So I think we got to look at guys like that as well.
All right. No doubt. No doubt. Good point. And it's funny, when you brought up Exile, that's kind of what I was trying to say about Pharcyde, because after Fashawn did the project with Alchemist, I feel like Alchemist is at a certain level. You can't go down. So it's no real diss to Exile. I just wasn't feeling the beats. You know what I mean? So it's almost one of those things where it's like, if it's almost like what the Indiana Pacers tried to do with giving up Paul George and getting Victor Oladipo. Again, it worked out for the Pacers, but nobody thought Oladipo was going to be as good as he did and how he stepped his game up. And what I mean by that is that you can't go from Alchemist then go to Exile. It don't work like that. You need to work your way up. Like, you can't go from, working with Pete Rock and then your next album is just produced by a producer fill in the blank. You know what I mean? Because you just can't. Because I heard Fashawn at this level, and then I hear this album and I've never listened to the album again. You know what I mean? So it's just like, yo, if you got Alchemist money, you better wait to spend that shit, until you waited a while, or do something to get more Alchemist money. Same thing with Brother Ali, who I love. I love this album. Love this album to death. 5 mic album to me. You know what I mean? Jake One did the whole album. After this album, Brother Ali went back to his regular producer. I forgot who it was. It may be Exile. I stopped listening to Brother Ali. There's a certain sound. You know what I mean? And Jace, I feel you, me being a producer, but again, I know I ain't the only person who stopped rocking with Janet.
No, you're not.
When she stopped messing with Jimmy Jam. I know I'm not the only person who was like, oh, damn, such and such ain't working with such and such no more. It's like, I don't know how that's going to sound. So I do think the sound comes from that. Eddie, give them all your social media stuff and where they can get at you, man.
Hey, man, you can follow me on Twitter, EddieD80. I'm always having a good hip-hop conversation.
All right, Gnu, give them all your stuff, good brother.
Hit me on Twitter, Mr. Gary 70 at Mr. Gary 73. Hit me on Instagram, Mr. Gary Gnu. Peace.
All right, Jace, what's good with all your stuff, good brother?
On Twitter, it's at JERIKTYLER. On Instagram, it's at JTyler0801.
All right, no doubt. And Vern, give them all your stuff, good brother.
Twitter at VChandler10, Instagram VEChandler10.
All right, and you already know what it is with me, Kill889, IG, and Twitter. We'll make beats for food. I check y'all out next week, man.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
All right, peace.